everyone. Good evening. How are you? Great to be here. If you've never met me before, my name is Nick Ostosh. I've been a BCBA for 6 years. I've also been a BCBA test prep instructor for 5 years. I used to work at Rogue ABA. I've helped hundreds of students get their letters, and now I'm here doing my own thing with my company called Understanding Behavior. Really exciting. Thank you guys so much for being here. I see a lot of people in chat have already put in some topics for this evening. I think we've got a really good list here. Oh, I forgot. We also had schedules of reinforcement. That is definitely one that I want to hit on today because I am a schedules of reinforcement nerd. So a couple things before we get rocking and rolling. We're doing a special thing tonight. So special in two ways. First of all, we're probably only going to do 45 minutes tonight. My voice is shot. I've been doing a lot of tutoring. I've been talking my ass off. So we're probably going to do 45 minutes tonight. But second, cooler thing is that if we get up to 35 concurrent viewers on this stream at any point during the stream, then I'll be giving away a 1-hour tutoring session free to somebody here. Also, if you're interested in tutoring, you can visit my store at understandingbehavior.shop. It's like really pretty, and you can buy tutoring sessions there. We can cover whatever you want. It runs very similarly to the study hall, so if you're into that, then you can sign up there. Also, if you'd like to receive the notes from tonight's session, I just dropped a Google form earlier in chat, so scroll up in chat a little bit, drop your info in there, and then I'll send you all of the notes to from tonight's session after this session, probably in the morning. Okay, so yeah, it was a great set of topics here. We had first Natalie put exploit functional contingencies. I tried to get a little bit more detail on this, but I think I might know like where she may have wanted to go with this topic. So kind of interesting. So this is just kind of like a way to test or prove the function of a behavior. And what this usually involves is putting the behavior on extinction. And this is kind of like an experimental manipulation that we're doing. So if we put the behavior on extinction, we would expect extinction effects to occur. So kind of a neat tactic that you can use to prove a function of behavior is if we think we have, let's say, an escape maintain behavior, we'll do escape extinction. So we would that would involve keep on presenting that aversive stimulus even though the behavior is occurring. And then if we see extinction patterns, so the extinction pattern would first be that burst, then a drastic drop off in that behavior. If we see those patterns, then we've confirmed our hypothesis that yes, this was escape maintain. If we didn't see that pattern, then we would note that that's not we didn't have the function correct. So that's one way that we can kind of like exploit this functional contingencies. What we do is we put it on extinction, see if we see extinction effects, and that is another way to confirm whether we have a particular function of behavior. So it's almost like a mini FA that we're doing here, and this is like a firm confirmation because we have data if the pattern occurs that shows that yep, this was the function of the behavior. So hopefully, Natalie, I answered that question. If you're here, I would like to comment on that any further. I would love that, but hopefully that is helpful and kind of a cool thing to think about. All right, so schedules of reinforcement. I love this topic so much. One of the reasons why I really love this topic and a lot of behavior analysis is because most of it is done in these really tightly controlled settings with Skinner boxes, but we can also see like how schedules of reinforcement relate to everyday life. And to me, like it's one of those things that really shows like the connection between experimental basic research and our applied work and applied research. So I love seeing those connections. I think it's just really cool, and it shows that, like, hey, even most human behaviors under all these same principles too. So when we talk about schedules of reinforcement, essentially, like, what a schedule of reinforcement is the way that reinforcement is implemented. So a couple different ways that we can manipulate our schedules. So we have our fixed schedules, we have variable schedules, we have ratio schedules, and we also have interval schedules, and then we also have our time-based schedules. Now, time-based schedules, one caveat here is that, like, these are not really schedules of reinforcement. And we'll talk about that later, so you have to stay here to hear that. So the reason why we broke each of these down into individual words is because it's going to be really helpful in our different analyses. So when we're studying schedules of reinforcement, it's going to be really important to focus on two things. So how the schedule is implemented, and then what kind of responding the schedules produce. And these we're looking at cumulative records. Okay, Natalie, just stepped away. No worries. Yeah, let me know when you watch the recording if that was what you're looking for. So here's what we're focusing on with schedules of reinforcement. You should know these for both of these things for all of our different schedules. So how is that schedule implemented? And then what kind of responding that schedule produces. Also, just a quick update, we are only 7 minutes in this stream. If we get 10 more viewers on this stream, then I'll be giving away a free tutoring session. So remember, tell your friends, get people here so I can give that away tonight. So let's look at our fixed, let's break down each of these schedules and first talk about, like, how the schedule is implemented. So fixed schedules, this is when we're looking at the, it's always going to be the same amount of time or responses. Variable means it's going to be an average amount of time or responses. So this is like between deliveries of reinforcement. So for example, like a variable ratio where we're counting the number of responses is required for the reinforcer is if we had a VR3, for example, sometimes reinforcement would be delivered after 1 response, sometimes it'd be delivered after 5 responses, sometimes it'd be delivered after 3, but overall it's going to average out to 3. So ratio, this is when it's delivered after just a number of responses occurs. Interval schedule, honestly, probably one of the most mistaken things that I've seen students, one of the most biggest struggle topics that I see students have. So listen real carefully here. Reinforcement is delivered on an interval schedule for the first response after a period of time. So time must elapse, then response occurs, then reinforcer is provided. So not just time. Let's take look at an example of that. So let's say I'm looking at a stupid mobile game that has like a daily reward button on it. So every day you click it, it takes 24 hours before that resets. So the reinforcer, like the extra points or whatever, that's provided once you click that button, and now it'd be a fixed interval in that situation because it'd always be 24 hours from the time you click that button before that becomes available again. So it's not time alone. You still must engage in that response. And then once you engage in that response, the reinforcer is provided. And note that the interval resets right when that reinforcer is provided. So so let's say like the response occurred at hour 25, then it's going to be 24 hours from that 25-hour mark before that becomes available again. So that's how interval schedules work. We have the behavior must occur, and then the reinforcer is provided. Oh man, viewers are getting close. We're up to 29. Keep it rocking. Great to see y'all here, ready to learn. I love these schedules. Let's keep going. So in a time-based schedule, who knows how, let's get some answers in chat going. Who knows how a reinforcement or how a reinforcer is provided in a time schedule? Let's see some answers in chat. Yeah, so a lot of people saying NCR here. So yeah, I like it. Like a time schedule, time schedules are used in NCR. So who wants to be brave and break that down a little bit more? So how do I actually providing reinforcers? It's gonna take a brave person here. All right. Yeah, Stephanie, one of my killer tutoring students, has it right on track here. So after a set time, not depending on a response. Perfect. Yeah, Robin right after her too. After a specified amount of time. Perfect. Yeah, Natalie, great detail. No response is necessary. Great. Yeah, Crystal, perfect. Good. Maria looks great too. So this is when reinforcer is delivered after a period of time. Excellent. So this is not really a schedule of reinforcement like I mentioned earlier, and this is because there is no response that produces the behavior, or that produces the reinforcer rather. So remember, reinforcement is it's a relation between a behavior and a consequence. So if there's no behavior, then there's no reinforcement because there's no behavior that's producing a particular consequence. So this is what we would just call a time schedule. So this is delivery of reinforcers. It's not technically a schedule of reinforcement. So kind of tricky there. So these are how all the schedules are implemented. And then what we can look at, we're gonna draw a big cumulative record here. So I'm gonna put this like towards the bottom of the screen. Get a big old graph. So now we can look at all of these different schedules and what kind of responding that they produce. So we're gonna take the same terms, except now we can't measure like responding that time schedules produce because they don't relate to reinforcement. There's no behavior. So let's go ahead and take a look at these. We have fixed, we have interval, we have ratio. Sorry, we have fixed, variable, and then we'll do interval and ratio. Let's do ratio then interval. I like that order better for some reason. Probably just because of what I usually do. All right, so fixed. So when we're talking about fixed schedules, either a fixed variable or a fixed ratio, who in chat knows what kind of responding that this produces? We're only looking at the fixed part. Kind of tricky here. What do you think? Anybody know this? Ooh, somebody's right on it. Somebody got it right away. Awesome. Yeah, Crystal and then Natalie also right on it too. So this is responding that creates pauses. How about variable? So variable is kind of the opposite now. What kind of responding does a variable schedule produce? So that's how it's implemented is with using the average number of reinforcers. Nobody's got this one quite yet. Yeah, Ash is the first person to get this one. Excellent job there, Ash. So they have consistent responding, or so we might call this like smooth responding. So consistent or smooth responding. Another way to think about this is like responding without pauses or changes in rate. So Ash also had like the great explanation for that too, is because like they never know when it's coming, because if we're using variable schedules, that means we're varying up how many responses or how long it takes before reinforcement becomes available. So it makes it less predictable, and that smooths out the pattern of the behavior. And yeah, Robin, right on track there, kind of like a slot machine, where it like smooths that out. You don't know when you're gonna win, so you're just gonna keep responding. All right, how about our ratio schedules? What kind of responding do these typically make? Any other guesses here? Any thoughts? Ratio schedules. Cool, a couple of correct answers here. All right, yeah. Now we're starting to get it. Natalie, way to go there. First person. Summer right after her. Robin looks great as well. So this is going to be typically faster responding. And we think about the reason for the faster responding is because with ratio schedules, since it's based off the number of responses, then if they engage in more responses, they're going to get more reinforcers. So that's how the ratio schedule works, and because they can like faster responding always results to faster reinforcement, then we usually see faster rates in those ratio schedules. All right, how about our interval schedules? What kind of responding do we typically see for this one? We'll go a little faster this time. Cool. A couple of correct responses here. Natalie is on these. Excellent. Good. Amanda, Faiza, too. This one is going to be slower rates of responding. So think about it with an interval schedule. It's for the first response after a period of time is when the reinforcer is delivered. So in this one, there's periods of time where reinforcement is not available at all. So what that does is that it slows the behavior down, because unlike the ratio schedule, more responses doesn't always lead to more reinforcers in an interval schedule. So it slows down that rate of behavior quite a bit. All right, so on a cumulative record graph, what we want to look at is our cumulative number of responses. Look, I'm smart enough to put the U in there so it doesn't say com. So cumulative number of responses on our y-axis. And then I'm going to draw 4 different data paths here. So here is our first one. Here is our second one. Here is our third one. And then here is our fourth one. So pretend I drew this well. Okay, and then also in these, I can draw these little lines in here. These are called pips, and they signal that a reinforcer is delivered whenever there's a pip occurring. So I'm going to draw where the pips go for some of these. Now let's look at our little table that we have here that describes the 4 different patterns of responding. And now we should be able to put 2 of these together for each of these and label each schedule that we have. So let's do data path number 1 here. What kind of schedule of reinforcement is being graphed on data path number 1? Awesome. Lots of great answers in chat. Anybody else want to go for it? Who wants to provide a rationale? Even cooler. Also, guys, right now we are at 32 concurrent viewers on the stream. We only need 3 more people to give away the session. So tell your friends. Make sure to stay here so we can give away that session later. Lots of correct answers in chat. Summer, Amanda, Natalie, Stephanie, Crystal, killing it. We've got a VR schedule here. Jessica as well. Yeah, Stephanie, right to the point with the rationale. It's fast and consistent. Love it. So yeah, Amanda, variable number of responses have to occur before reinforcement. Yeah, cool. So we could look at that as well. So one way to see is that there's like different amounts of spaces between the pips here. Sometimes it's a little bit of space, sometimes it's a lot of space. So that's another way that we could get to variable, is that if there's like lots of different amounts of spaces between the pips, assuming the graph is drawn well, which mine is not. Yeah, cool, Natalie, high and steady rate here. Another way to get that variable ratio. All right, let's look at data path number 2. What do we got here? Looking good, looking good. Yeah, so this one is a fixed ratio. Excellent answers in chat here. Lots of people getting that. The reasons why we see responding that has pauses. So these little flat lines here, this shows that time is passing, time on our x-axis, and then responding is not occurring. So that's our little flat line there, horizontal on our cumulative record. Quick pause, and then it's about equal space between all of these. And we still see that fast responding from the ratio schedule. We see that steeper slope indicates faster rate of responding. All right, how about number 3, our interval schedule? What kind of schedule do we have graphed on data path number 3? Looking good. Nice, Natalie, Crystal, Amanda, Stephanie, Yesenia. Excellent. Yep, so this one is going to be our variable interval. So we see that slower rate of responding, and then we see it smooth, consistent responding as well. And then again, we see like the differing amounts of time in between our pips here as well as another indicator. How about our last schedule? So let's get labeling some of these too. So we've got VR, FR, VI, cool. Awesome, lots of people getting this here. We have FI, our scallop. So the scallop shape here, I think it's because it kind of looks like a half clam or something. I'm pretty sure why. That's why. So what this does here is that once the reinforcer is delivered, we see a lot of like flat responding, so not much responding occurs at all for a period of time. And then as we get closer towards the end of that interval, then we see responding starting to occur very quickly. So another like way to like conceptualize a fixed interval schedule is that our period here is kind of like an S delta, where like if they've recently received a reinforcer, it serves as an S delta, where like responding is probably not going to give me a reinforcer anytime soon. But as we get closer towards the end of that interval, that's becoming an SD for the behavior. So it's like haven't received a reinforcer recently becomes an SD. It signals that reinforcement is more likely until they receive a reinforcer. That's like, okay, so if they've previously received a reinforcer, that's serving as an S delta. So the more like you expose an individual to a fixed interval schedule, the more that this line will shift. So more of this period will become S delta period, and a smaller amount of period will become that SD period. Has anybody ever like thought about that or like conceptualized a fixed interval schedule like that, or is this something new? I'm kind of curious. Cool. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. So basically, like a naive participant on a fixed interval schedule. Again, like I'd like to think about it as like the simplest examples, like Skinner box. So we would have rat in a Skinner box. Let's say a fixed interval 60-second schedule. So they receive a reinforcer if they press the lever after 60 seconds. Now the rat has no idea like what this schedule means at all. But as they experience it, they start to learn. Let's say like they just like kind of keep pressing at a fairly steady rate at first. What we would have is more like a variable interval responding because they're not sure. They're not sure like how it really works yet. So these patterns of responding, they tend to form after the individual has experienced the schedules for a long time. So at first they don't really know, but then they start to realize like, hey, if I like just got the thing, like pressing the levers pretty much never really gotten me more things. So so they start to learn that like, hey, this period is time where I'm not receiving the reinforcer. And then as they learn and experience the schedule, they learn it better, be like, oh, I can really wait like 40 seconds until like I have to start pressing. And then as they learn it really well, it's like, oh, I can wait till like 50 seconds as that line shifts a little bit more before it really matters if I'm responding or not. So as they learn, then they start to respond more efficiently, essentially. So kind of a cool conceptualization. All right. So that's kind of like the basics of basic schedules of reinforcement. I think we're going to stop there for now because we did a lot of schedules nerding, and we'll move on to some of our other topics. But hopefully this was cool and helpful. I love schedules of reinforcement. I can nerd about them all day. Also, like, if you didn't get to take Rat Lab during grad school, I'm so sorry because it's like the coolest thing ever. I love Rat Lab. All right. Let's talk a little bit about respondent versus operant behavior. So essentially, like, respondent behavior, think about it as reflexive behavior. So it's behavior that occurs automatically when an eliciting stimulus is presented. I also like to think about, like, reflexive behavior as, like, involuntary behavior. And another way to think about this is, like, if I ask you to do it, you couldn't. So some examples of respondent behavior or reflexive behavior would be, like, start sweating. Like, you can't just, like, start sweating. Or, like, start salivating a bunch. Or, like, increase your heart rate 50 BPM. So the thing is, like, you could expose yourself to stimuli that might cause that. So it's like, if I wanted to salivate, I might think about, like, cake and cookies, and that might get me going a little bit. If I wanted to, like, raise my heart rate, then I could, like, start, like, running, for example. So that would increase my heart rate. But it's not like a choice to engage in these behaviors. I have to be exposed to the right stimuli that will make these behaviors happen. So that's kind of just like a good rule of thumb is, like, if somebody asked you to do it and you couldn't, it's a reflexive behavior. Respondent behavior, I just want to clarify here, is that respondent behavior can be learned. So the learning is essentially, like, what stimuli elicit the respondent behavior. So if you look at, like, phobias, I think, like, phobias and fetishes are, like, the two great examples of respondent behavior that can be learned. So, like, we're not, like, naturally afraid of clowns, for example, or naturally afraid of, like, mice. Like, Albert the Rat study showed at first that, like, no, like, the infant really liked the mouse at first, so, like, mice are really fun. So, like, the fear that is elicited by those kind of stimuli is all learned. Fetishes too, like, nobody's born with a foot fetish or born with, I don't know, whatever crazy fetish you're into. Those things are conditioned through what they've experienced and, like, what has been paired with sexual stimulation, for example. So respondent behavior can be learned, and then it's really, like, what stimuli elicit those behaviors will dictate that. Operant behavior is literally everything else. So it's everything except reflexive behavior. So usually we think about, like, muscular behavior, or also, like, any, like, type of verbal behavior as well. And this includes, like, includes thoughts and thinking. So operant behavior is literally everything else. Operant behavior is, like, selected through consequences. That's really the main thing with operant behaviors, like, what the main factor of control is. So operant behavior is selected through consequences of behavior. Respondent behavior is controlled by eliciting stimuli. Cool. We had here, somebody wanted to discuss advantage of experimental designs. We did a full deep dive of experimental designs 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to redirect you to that video. But it's a full hour. Actually, we did half of the following session too, so it's like an hour and a half review of all experimental designs. Highly recommend you guys check it out if you haven't already. If you've seen it in chat, if you've already watched it in chat, like, post a comment, like, if you liked it or not. All right, let's check our next one, our group contingencies. So we've got 3 different types of group contingencies as well. What are those 3 different contingencies? Let's see those in chat. All right, cool. Yeah, we got some good answers in chat. Yesenia's got one. African Luxury Weddings got one. Summer's got all 3. Nice. Good. Yeah, Robin's got them. Jessica's got them. Sweet. Nice. All right, so yeah, we've got our 3 different ones here. We've got our dependent, interdependent, there we go. And then we have our independent. All right, so yeah, group contingencies in general are just like a contingency that involves the whole group. I would say a group of individuals, not necessarily large. So when we think about the dependent, like nice little reference here is like it's the hero procedure. So reinforcement occurs, or sorry, reinforcers are provided for the entire group if an individual or a group of individuals meets a certain criteria. Let me squeeze this in for you too, so you can see it all. So some examples of this would be, I'm from Denver. We keep winning like all the sports things. So it's like sports team wins the championships, and then it results in the whole town gets a parade. It's crazy. I like live downtown and they like shut all the streets down and everything. Huge parade for the whole town and the whole state, really. So another example would be like if Johnny doesn't hit anybody throughout the day, staff will have a party. So kind of nice, funny way to like motivate your staff too. Actually, it might not be the most fair way because who knows what kind of day Johnny's gonna have. But if things are all contingent there, then it could be fun. I don't know. Probably a bad example, but it is an example. How about our interdependent contingencies? Anybody know how this works? So who gets reinforcement and who has to do what? Cool, yeah, something about the whole group. African Luxury Weddings on it. Yeah, Jessica's kind of mentioning it's like the all for one. Kind of like the easy way to remember it. Yeah, summer depends on everybody in the group. Good. Yeah, Kanisha, when the whole group is dependent on each other, on the right track. Perfect. So basically it's like every individual must meet, I'm going to say individual in the group must meet the criteria for reinforcement to be delivered to everybody. Perfect. So yeah, everybody must meet the criteria for it to get it. So it might be like if the teacher says, if everybody gets an 80% or higher on the spelling test, then we'll have a pizza party. So we can put that example down too. So if everybody scores 80% or higher on the spelling test, then everybody gets a pizza party. So one advantage of this is like it can help get strong students to motivate weaker students. Because if like the smart kid is like, oh man, I really need that pizza party, they might actually like teach this kid how to teach like the underperforming kids how to spell. So it can create like a lot of like group collaboration with independent contingencies. Kind of one advantage of it. Okay, and then independent group contingencies are pretty straightforward. So this is going to be the contingency is available for everybody, and each person that meets the criteria will receive the reinforcers. So, so anybody can engage and meet that criteria, and then anybody can receive that reinforcing outcome for it. So, an example of this would be, let's say, if you get 90% or higher on the spelling test, you can pick a toy from the toy chest. Or you get a sticker, whatever's cool. Any kind of reinforcer there. We had another person mention baseline logic. So that's going to be like our prediction, verification, and replication. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to plug the experimental design video, especially if you go over when we look at our withdrawal designs, you'll see these very clearly and get some really good examples in there. So I'm going to say, check out the experimental design video. And I'll put the link to the video in the notes too, so you have that easy link to go to. All right, lastly, somebody had a question about ontogeny and phylogeny and like how it relates to operant behavior. So yeah, like ontogeny, this is when we look at like selection of behavior through consequences. And it's pretty much directly relatable to operant behavior. Phylogeny is more about like trait selected behaviors and motivations. So people say that like this is all respondent behavior, but it's not always like all respondent behavior. This can affect like your MOs too. So like if you think about like any sexual being has like sexual stimulation as a natural motivating operation, and the sexual behavior is operant behavior. So it's more focused on like the urges and like and focused on like what traits have been passed down through species. So think about it more as like traits passed down through species that help with survival and reproduction. So you can think about this. So I'm just going to put this note because it seems to be a common misconception. It's like not always respondent behavior. And then like pretty clear example of that is like sexual urges. So sexual behavior is operant, and the phylogeny is really that we've grown to have sexual stimulation be a strong motivating operation for us. So counterexample there for that. So really just focus on like on traits and natural selection, so things that help survival and reproduction. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for coming tonight. This was fun. I really enjoyed the schedules review. I thought that was really cool, and hopefully you did too. If you'd like to receive the notes from tonight's session, you can go ahead and fill out the form. I will throw the link into chat once more Let me get here. So yeah, go ahead and fill out that form if you'd like to receive the notes. I will send them out either tonight or tomorrow morning. Hopefully you enjoyed this session. If you'd like to support, the best way to do it is sign up for a tutoring session, and then we can jam and nerd out about some behavior analysis. If that's not something that you're looking for, another great thing you can do is just tell your friends about this and come to our sessions. I run these most Thursdays, and we'll probably run the same schedule next week. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Glad you guys picked up some good things. Appreciate all the feedback. Again, you can check out all my stuff. I'll drop my link tree into chat as well. My store is on there, so if you'd like to purchase tutoring sessions, my schedules has been filling up faster, so I would hop on it. I'm becoming a very busy boy. But again, thank you guys so much for coming and being here tonight and for all of your amazing participation and responding. We got so close to our concurrent viewer mark. We got up to 32. We needed 35. So unfortunately, we will not be giving away the free tutoring session tonight, but I'll run this same deal next week, and hopefully we can get it. So tell your friends to come next week. All right. Well, thank you guys again so much for being here, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Happy studying. Laters.